All right, so we're gonna go guard. Whoa, look at that man. Give me his back. Danger, danger. Yeah. So we're just gonna go into guard. So the entry that I'm just gonna use through here, I'm just gonna control his wrist. I'm gonna put my knee inside. As soon as I put my knee inside, I'm making my cartwheel over the top so that I can put my knee to my own, my heel to my own knee. Okay. Through here, I'm gonna start to flare into Matt's face so that I can break away and flatten him out. Okay. Now, my goal through here is as my leg is straightening, then my leg is curling, okay? And then as quickly as possible, it can be literally as simple as just taking my elbow and starting to block over his hip and leg. It doesn't even have to be like a full major grip or anything of that nature, okay? Then we're gonna sit up. I like to underhook the shoulder on the far side. It's not about the underhook. It's just about getting over the hip, okay? I just pride myself like the underhook on the shoulder, okay? Then from here, my knee is gonna go that direction. I'm not gonna pull myself across his shoulders. What I'm gonna do through here is I'm gonna take my knee and I'm gonna push it towards the ground and I'm gonna elevate my hip at the same time. Pressure down and elevate in the process. Because if I go like this, okay, you see how much longer it takes. So this is Omaplata, and statistically, Omaplata sucks. Okay, so just take care of that right now. Statistically, Omaplata is horrible. Statistically, as a submission. But as an off-balancing tool, okay, it's amazing. I mean, it's kind of like triangles are a great technique, but triangles are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what it's capable of. Omaplata, it's taught as a submission, but it's horrible as a submission. I mean, if you look statistically speaking, it's like one of the least of the so-called major techniques that are taught as part of the foundation of jiu-jitsu. I mean, it's arm bars, kimuras, triangles, omoplata. You know, it's like the worst of all of them. But like I said, as an off-balancing, then it becomes a fantastic technique. So again, I'm just gonna play with those wrists. I'm going to shift, put my knee inside, just so that I can get my hips to flare. Lots of different ways we can get into it. Failed arm bars, failed triangles, lots of different ways. I'm just using this to get into it so we can concentrate on the motion. So as I flare my knee, you see how it takes his head? So that puts me over. I'm already controlling his hip. My foot is going into the side of his face. So now from here, if Matt's trying to push into me, or even if he's trying to hold on to my leg, this becomes a difficult proposition because my foot is going to push his face away, which is going to make it very difficult for him to stay connected to me. Now, I like this foot to go wide, okay? Then through here, I'm shrimping my hip to pull it to that side and break him down. I'm putting pressure down into his shoulder and pulling him sideways, okay? Then we're coming in, and my hand is going across his back and then anchoring into the shoulder. Through here, this one should be pinching. I've got a good bite on his wrist into my hip and stomach, so I know right now it's not going anywhere. But if it was a little bit loose, this leg is there to make sure that it's going to stay pinched inside. Preferably, this is great. If it's over here, it can still work, but just you gotta watch that elbow. If it starts to really come free, you're gonna find a lot more success. Okay, this knee goes down, and my hip elevates. Don't just elevate your hip. No pressure down, no tap. Okay? Pressure down and elevate. Don't go across. Don't just pick up your hips. And as soon as they tap, okay, then fall off backwards. Don't celebrate and get up. At that point, you will take your shoulder with them, and it's not going to be a good day for them. Okay? That goes down. I'm already starting to play with his hands, okay? And
Yeah, I haven't
my
gotten any.
feet
You good?
are making the transition.
Okay, good.
So when this one is kicking, okay, I'm kicking him down, and this one is going over the shoulder. So that by the time this one puts his head down to the floor, I'm pulling his hand while this one's going over the top. Once it makes its connection, then I can pull my leg out. Now, either way, I don't care if I'm hitting omoplata or not. I need to keep Matt's head from sitting up, because otherwise his guard pass is probably going to be already there, and it's more than likely the reaction he's going to give. Pulls his arm, he's going to drive in and start going for this pass. So whether I'm going for rodeo guard or omoplata or whatever, pretty much irrelevant. So as I'm in, the moment we're out, this one's going to start to push. You see I'm already playing. This one starts to come over so that they replace each other, okay? And then we start to make her pull and break him down, okay? So then again, once we're in here, I make my transition and then go in. Pretty much it looks the same way from triangles, pretty much it looks the same way from arm bars, pretty much it looks the same way. Anytime I get into that position where the one arm becomes free towards my hip, go for a Kimura setup. You can go omoplata. It's all part of the same sequencing. Okay, so omoplata can be added as a backup device to virtually all of your major attacks. Arm bars, Kimuras, triangles, all those. They can be added in as a parachute, if you will. That if those techniques start to fail, we can add omoplata as a fail-safe at the end, the parachute. So that as Matt's like pissed at me because I tried to submit him and now he wants to drive in, it's a way of keeping his head away and making him at least now have to defend a new pressure and get into omoplata. Right now we're using it as a sub. In about 2 seconds or a little bit longer, we're going to start to play with it from an actual more just a transitionary position. So let's use the arm bar, okay? And again, if you feel comfortable enough, play with your triangles, play with your Kimura setups, and then just go directly into your omoplata from there. And then break them down and try to get your finish. Right. Matt's going to do the cartwheel he did when he was like 6. Okay. Now remember though, you have to do the cartwheel like you did when you were 6. You had confidence back then. Okay, you didn't know what you were doing, but you had confidence. When you threw that thing, you weren't worried about what was about to happen. But almost all of them, when they do it, they throw it and they end up like cartwheeling over onto their knees, okay, rather than doing this nice, beautiful cartwheel. Okay, but again, you got to throw it like you were 6. Okay, don't hesitate. Throw over. So as I come in, as his shoulder goes down, he's just going to make his cartwheel over the top, lands on his knees. Okay, that's important. Don't roll, don't do your cartwheel and then fall onto your hip. Okay, now from here, he's just going to anchor into my head, and then he's going to start to pull his arm to freedom, and now he can steal the omoplata. Okay. So again, as I'm coming in, and I go over right here, he makes his cartwheel to freedom. And then pop in, and then take over side control. Like I said, it's the cartwheel you did when you were like 6 years old on the lawn. Okay, you didn't realize you were training jiu-jitsu then, and it's all functional now, because actually that is how I want you to do your cartwheel. When you were that old, very few of them would throw to land on their feet. Okay, but when they would throw, they would crash onto their knees and things of that nature. That's how I want you to go. Okay. Now, if you have to, you can go step one leg, then step the other. The reality is, as soon as that shoulder goes down and he's pushing, that's your sign. It's go time. Okay. That shoulder goes down, your hips go up, and the cartwheel pretty much almost takes care of itself. Okay. Just make sure you clear your partner. Okay. This is one of many of the variations. There's forward somersaults or shoulder rolls. There's the cartwheel over the top. Cartwheel over the top is also going to save you in a lot of belly down armbar attempts and other things. It's not a one-off move. I don't do one-off moves. Okay, the pressure of that cartwheel over the top Like I said, it's a piece that you're going to use in a lot of different applications. And that's the kind of tools I like. I have multi-tools in my box. I don't have one-off tools. I can never find them. Okay? When you need them, you can't find them. And when you find them, you don't need them. So what's the point of filling up your toolbox with a bunch of one-off tools that are so specialized in what they're doing? Either that is your specialty and you've made that your life, okay? Or you're investing a lot of time in a lot of tools that you're not going to use very often. Okay? So let's go into our, whatever setup you want to use for the Omaplata, but now use the cartwheel to exit, right? So when I go in again, it doesn't matter what setup I go into, because once I'm in, the power wave of all Omaplatas follow the same concept as they go in. So right now I'm holding on with this hand, holding him in, which means I have the other hand free. There's variations where I can release with one so I can start to play with the other. So again, it's one of these, as I come through here, there's options where I can make my switch and I can start to come in to control his leg, break him down and extend him through here. This is one way I can start to control his hips and prevent him from making his cartwheel, okay? Or if I'm prepared for his cartwheel, as we're coming in, I have my free hand. So as he makes his jump through here, I ride up. I'm literally sitting on top of his shoulder. As we ride the power wave, the sweep itself is super easy. And if I'm doing it, you know it's easy. I don't do super fancy stuff because ultimately I don't have any faith. It's not to say that they're not good, not effective. It's just not part of my thing. I mean, different vehicles are built for different tasks. Okay, if you want to go out and go do certain races, you're going to use one type of car. If you're going to go out on trails, you're going to use a Jeep or something of that nature. Everything is purpose built for what it is. So ultimately at the same time, I mean, yes, I can take one vehicle and I can kind of play with it over in this other realm, but don't sit there and think that, that ultimately speaking, unless you start to build it for that specific purpose. So as my saying goes, orca do not perform the same tricks as dolphins. We're built different, we do things different, okay? And so ultimately speaking, it's one of these things where, again, it's not to say that you can't, but just know that based on certain choices, like I said, if you drive a Ford versus a Chevy, okay, I'm not going to be able to take parts from one and just transfer them over. Some things will, but most won't. They're just built slightly different. So when you start to put that into your mindset, I'm starting to say, okay, so based on the way I make my personal choices, these are going to make more sense to me. And based on the way you make your personal choices, that's why I don't like the idea of anybody ever saying that this is the arm bar. No, it's not. It's one of many arm bars. It's your preference. That's the one you've invested more time in because it fits your vehicle. Mine's going to look very different. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the one that's the best one is the one I just caught you with. You can argue anything else, but if you didn't think it was the best arm bar that ever happened, don't tap and tell me what happened. Tell me that arm bar wasn't good when you're tapping. It could be the ugliest arm bar in the world. It was perfect for that moment. It's the best one that ever happened. Okay? And that's ultimately the way the game truly works. So when I'm here, this is how easy the rotation works. Okay? I break down for the Omaplata, and that goes to jump. All I do is make a connection. To be honest with you, I don't even have to make a connection. I just have the confidence to go with him. When I'm here, this is my rotation. That was it. Now when I sit up, my hips go back to my caboose. Everything pulls back. It doesn't go forward. I don't try to pull my knees forward. The part that most people are going to screw it up is you're going to try to go fast, and you're going to go from here, you're going to go, I'm going to grab, but now I need to get up. And the moment you do this, all the rotation disappears. Okay? A log, even with a teeny tiny little branch on it, does not roll very well. Okay? Get rid of the branches. So the moment I'm here, roll, and then sit up. Okay? So when I go into my omoplata, and I'm in, right here he goes, just roll. Now I sit up, super easy. I'm not the most athletic guy in the room, and I can do it with no problem. Now, once we're here, there's lots of different variations. We're gonna go over 3. Right through here, if I ride the lightning, right as I'm sitting up, I push my hip into his chest, and then I can back step, and then at that moment in time, you'd be amazed, you can catch triangles, you can catch mounts, okay? You can get a lot of stuff. That's a very common response. Again, each person's gonna have a different preference. Always remember, it is just a preference. It's not one technique is better than the other, okay? It's what is your personal choice and personal expression, and how much time have you invested into that pathway. This is what makes it better for you versus less. For me, I don't backstep. That's not my style, okay? My style is I sit up and I put my hand and I cross face. Then through here, I put my body in and I just take side control. At that moment in time, I go into an early pin and then go into my game from there. That's my personal expression, okay? So we have the back step, very common. Side control, a little less common, but I'm gonna argue you'll land it more than you will the success of the back step. But again, I'm going for the low-hanging fruit, okay? But a lot of people, they like the fancy. Now, if you want to go uber fancy, then let's throw in like a berimbolo style roll. So I'm here, and I'm controlling that arm. So when I come up, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to step and open my leg, okay? When I open that leg, and I go here, my head and my shoulder will start to collapse to go into that pocket. So that now, by the time I go down, I go into a secondary roll, okay, which will almost always put you ahead of his hips. Because when he went to make his jump, he was sitting more on his legs. So when I go into my secondary jump, okay, I will almost always beat his hips to the up position. Okay? But again, it's another one of those, we sit up and we have to go right into it. If you're going to back step, you got to hit it as you sit up. If you want to re-roll for the omoplata, you got to hit it the moment you come up. If I want to go into side control, I can kind of sit there for a little bit. I don't have to be as fast, because as long as I'm sitting on the shoulder and until my hips move, okay, it's a fairly good pin. And then I can kind of take my time. The back step to mount needs to be part of your lightning, needs to be part of your momentum. And then same thing, the shoulder roll to re-roll for the omoplata needs to be part of your motion. So that way, as soon as you're rolling and you sit up, you go right back into the re-roll to go for a second omoplata. Let's give it a shot. 1, 2, 3.